Hey guys. Tonight I wanted to do a video. I haven't done one in a little while, and it's something that I've been thinking about doing for a little while now, and it made it a lot easier to find everything I needed to do it because all of my records are now cataloged on Discogs, so it was much easier to find everything. But tonight I wanted to talk about 1989 specifically for a couple of reasons. First one, great year for music. Excellent year for music. Secondly, it was sort of the year where vinyl kind of officially entered its dark age. By 1989, cassettes had been outselling vinyl for 6 years. CDs had been outselling vinyl for 3 years. People just liked cassettes and CDs because they were smaller. They didn't take up as much room. They were more convenient. And people, they didn't have surface noise, right? People interpreted that as having better sound. Especially CDs, the labels were selling them to people as, hey, you're going to have perfect sound forever because nothing ever made physical contact with the disc. And so you couldn't wear a CD out, which, before that was unheard of in the history of recorded music formats. So, there were a lot of advantages, and after vinyl having been the vinyl LP having been the primary music format for the last 50-ish years, people were ready for something different. And so by 1989, the majors at least were still, and indie labels as well, were still pressing most titles on vinyl. But the problem is you just couldn't find them a lot of places. A lot of record stores had stopped selling vinyl because, the sales numbers just continued to go. And a lot of record stores were repurposing their vinyl bins by stocking CDs with them because CDs used to come in those long boxes. And that's exactly why they came in long boxes, was so that retailers wouldn't need new shelves. So they could repurpose their LP bins and use them to sell CDs. And that's exactly what a lot of them did. And so what that translates to these days is that so many of these great titles that came out in 1989, they're around on vinyl, but finding original copies of them are pretty difficult. Even the ones that sold a bajillion copies, they didn't sell a bajillion copies on vinyl, right? They sold a whole bunch on cassette and CD. So I wanted to kind of show you guys my entire library of records from 1989. Almost all of these are original. I think there's only one in here that isn't, and I'll mention that as I go. But I've got, rock, pop, metal, punk, country, you name it. So, like I said, great year for music. Lots of good stuff on the radio. Lots of good stuff coming out on the indie labels. A lot of good hair metal. A lot of good traditional heavy metal. All kinds of good stuff. So let's go ahead and get started. One of my, I wouldn't say this is my favorite of this band's records, but it's probably, I would say, solidly top three. Here's 10,000 Maniacs, Blind Man's Zoo. This was, if I'm not mistaken, this was the last studio album that had Natalie Merchant on it. I know they did the MTV Unplugged in the early 90s, and she left after that, but I could be wrong though, but I think this was the last studio record with her on it. Next up, it's funny when bands get clean and quit drinking and drugs and straighten up, a lot of times their music suffers. Not in this case. I think this is one of my favorite Aerosmith records and one of their best in my opinion. This is Pump from 1989. This is the one that's got Love in an Elevator and Janie's Got a Gun on it. Killer album, top to bottom. So good. That whole period of Aerosmith, late 80s, early 90s, albums like Permanent Vacation and Pump and Get a Grip. Killer. Another killer pop rock record. B-52's Cosmic Thing. This has Love Shack and Rome, which is probably my personal favorite B-52's track. This is another one, all killer, no filler. let's see what we got now. Okay, next up we got a super group. This group had Neil Schon and Jonathan Cain from Journey, along with John Wade on vocals. This is Bad English. The big hit on this was When I See You Smile. But this is actually a really great pop rock record, top to bottom. If you've never checked this out, I would highly suggest it if you like the 80s, because there's so much good stuff on here. My personal favorite song on this record is Ghost in Your Heart. Okay, if you like 80s pop vocal, think Anita Baker, Sade. Probably like this as well. This is an album called London, Warsaw, New York by Basha. Basha is very much in that vein. You know, it's pop vocal and very good. Okay, the Beach Boys came roaring back to the radio in 1989 with the song Kokomo, and though that was released as a single from the Cocktail soundtrack, of course they used that as an opportunity to actually put out an album, and so this is Still Cruisin'. This record is certainly not, I wouldn't put it in the upper echelon of Beach Boys records. I mean, it's solidly okay, but you know, there are a few unfortunate tracks on here, like you know, the version of Wipeout with the Fat Boys is kind of you know, but you know, Somewhere Near Japan is great. I love In My Car. That's a Brian Wilson classic as far as I'm concerned. Of course, Kokomo, and then oddly, some of the other songs, they kind of tailored this album around using other songs that had appeared in soundtracks. So it's got Make It Big from the Troop Beverly Hills soundtrack, and then it's got some older Beach Boys stuff to kind of help sell it. I Get Around, which was on the Good Morning Vietnam soundtrack, Wouldn't It Be Nice, which was on the Big Chill soundtrack, and California Girls, which was on the soundtrack for Soul Man. So kind of a hodgepodge record, but it's all right. Okay. There's a man who died recently, and I hope that in his house he had this artwork hanging, like the original artwork hanging in his house, framed somewhere, because this is the most beautiful album cover, one of the most certainly that I've ever seen, and the music lives up. This is Jeff Beck's Guitar Shop. Just unbelievable. If you like blistering guitar, you have come to the right place with this one. This is just a trio. It's Jeff Beck on all the guitars, Terry Bozzio on drums. For those who don't know who Terry Bozzio is, he spent a lot of time drumming with Frank Zappa in the 70s, and then in the 80s, he and his then wife Dale formed the group Missing Persons. And then keyboard extraordinaire Tony Hymas is on this as well. So I consider Jeff Beck's Guitar Shop to be essential 80s rock and roll. Here's a little bit of punk. This was released on Alternative Tentacles. This is Jello Biafra with DOA. Great record. And in addition to the vinyl, it's also got a whole bunch of extra goodies in here, as Biafra was known to do. So it's got a Fuck Facts newspaper with it. It's got a Alternative Tentacles merch sheet, and then it also has this lyric insert. So very cool package. Nice heavy cardboard sleeve on this one, or cardboard jacket, I should say. So yeah, very nice. The Dead Kennedys had broken up by this point, and so you know, Jello Biafra was kind of, you know, using Alternative Tentacles to do all kinds of interesting things under his own name at that time. All right, a little bit of country. It's one of my favorite country albums of all time. This is Clint Black's Killing Time. So many great songs on this. A Better Man, Nobody's Home. Killing Time, of course. Nothing's News. So good. The title track to Killing Time. Classic country lyric. I mean, who can't get with "You were the first thing that I thought of when I thought I drank you off my mind." All right. This one is mega hard to find. This is Black Sabbath's second album with Tony Martin on vocals, probably the best one that they did with him on vocals. This is Headless Cross. This is a 1989 original IRS metal, and amazingly, it is not a club pressing, and it does not have a cutout, a bargain bin cutout or anything. I'm shocked to find this, and this still has the original all black inner sleeve and has the insert with it as well. Another country. So when Garth Brooks first came on the scene, you know, this man, of course, changed country music forever. But when he first came on the scene, everybody thought he was going to be another traditionalist like George Strait and Clint Black and Randy Travis and Alan Jackson and all those guys. And, of course, he ended up flipping country music on his head. But the first album, very much a traditionalist type album. This is his self-titled record from 1989. This is a Columbia House pressing. It's in beautiful condition, and it sounds wonderful. It's got some of my favorite Garth Brooks songs on it. It's got If Tomorrow Never Comes. It's got Much Too Young to Feel This Damn Old. A lot of good stuff on here. All right, and then here's some more punk here. This is a, I can't remember. No, this is not a compilation. This is Brotherhood. A lot of good stuff on this. I haven't listened to this one in a hot minute. I may have to play this when I'm done making this video. All right, some more punk from a band from my hometown, Fresno, California. So this is Capital Punishment's Super Glutton EP. This is a collection of some stuff that was released on a 7-inch in Germany and some other stuff as well. And so there were actually 2 releases. So there was that one. And then the other release from them in 1989 was a German pressing that was sold worldwide. This is called Bulwarks Against Oppression. And this is, I wouldn't say this is their best record, but it's up there. It's good stuff. All right, here is some absolutely killer pop. This has, this is Belinda Carlisle's album Runaway Horses. And this has my personal favorite solo song of hers, Leave a Light On. You know, after she left the Go-Go's and went solo, she put out a string of really great records. And this is, if this isn't her best record, it's certainly in the conversation. Everybody seems to forget about this one. So Tracy Chapman's debut album came out in 1988, and that's the one that has all the hits from her, you know, Give Me One Reason and Fast Car and all of that. Everybody seems to forget about this one, but this one came out the following year, 1989. It's called Crossroads. And I'll tell you, this one is every bit as good as the first record. If you've never heard this and you like that self-titled debut, listen to this. You'll love it. It's really, really great. All right, now we're getting into a little bit of relation to my favorite band of all time. So in 1989, Genesis was on hiatus, and Mike Rutherford was working on a Mike and the Mechanics record, and Tony Banks was working on, I think he was working on Bank Statement at that time. And Phil Collins put out a solo record in 89, But Seriously. This is another great one from him. This one has Another Day in Paradise, Something Happened on the Way to Heaven. A lot of good stuff on this. This is about as deep as I go into Phil Collins solo stuff. Once we got into the 90s and he started getting into schmaltzy soundtrack songs and stuff, I kind of lost interest. But here's some good hard rock, and this one has a cool little manufacturing defect. So this is a comeback album for Alice Cooper. This is Trash. This is the album that has Poison on it. Huge radio hit in the late 80s. And what's cool about this one is that it's got a little manufacturing defect. So you can see the label on side 1 looks just fine. Check out the side 2 label. Oops. It's blank. That probably happened because there were 2 labels stuck to each other. and during printing, and so the label on top got printed, and the label that was stuck underneath it probably didn't. That's usually how that happens. But I thought that was pretty cool. Here's another metal album that I haven't pulled out in a hot minute that I should probably listen to after I'm done with this video. This is an album called Best Wishes by Best Wishes by Cro-Mags. This is just all rock, no roll, man. That's as simple as that. This is everything that's right about 80s metal right here. All right, and here is some more just good hard rock and fun. This is the album Sonic Temple by The Cult. This has Sun King, Firewoman. Oh, so good. I mean, this is like a party record, man. This was produced by Bob Rock, same guy that would go on to produce Metallica's Black Album in another couple of years. And yeah, whenever I have people over and we're in the mood for some rock and roll, this one always seems to find its way to the turntable. All right, take a break here for a second. Need a little bit of that juice. All right, next up, unbelievable album from The Cure. This is Disintegration. This is an original. This has Pictures of You. This has Love Song. This has Fascination Street. The Same Deep Water as You. So much good stuff on here. All right. These guys absolutely put the pop in pop metal. This is not only one of the best albums in 1989, as far as I'm concerned, one of the all-time great albums of the 80s. This is the self-titled debut from Danger Danger. Holy shit. I mean, the amount of insane hooks and just great vocals on this record is just unbelievable. The guitar playing's fantastic. The drumming is, oh my God, this album is so good. This has their two biggest hits on it, Naughty Naughty and Bang Bang. But there are so many other great songs on here. Don't Walk Away, Saturday Night, One Step from Paradise, Feels Like Love, Live It Up. This is essential. Absolutely essential. Another essential 80s record. This falls more into the hair metal vein. So here's an original pressing of Dangerous Toys, debut, unreal. Teasin' Pleasin', Scared, God, Take Me Drunk, Feels Like a Hammer, Queen of the Nile, Outlaw. God, I mean, this record is more magically delicious than a bowl of Lucky Charms. I hate to use that analogy, but man, oh, such a great record. All right. Next up, we've got one of the greatest hip-hop albums of all time. Here's an original pressing of 3 Feet High and Rising by De La Soul. This got reissued recently. A lot of people were really excited about that, and understandably so. I mean, it's killer. If you've never checked this out, you're a hip-hop fan, you should totally listen to this. This is one of the greatest for a reason. All right, so this is just some good middle-of-the-road pop rock. And always one of those records that just finds its way to the turntable when I'm just in a chill mood and, just kind of want something that doesn't require a whole lot of intellectual investment from the listener. Great stuff. This is Waking Hours by Del Amitri. Best songs on this, Kiss This Thing Goodbye, certainly. Opposite View, You've Gone, Stone Cold Sober, Empty. A lot of great tracks on this. Okay, here's some more kind of poppy hair metal. This is Disneyland After Dark, or DAD. And this record is one of those that I would say I like it enough to keep it, but probably don't love it. I mean, it's fine. I mean, there's a lot of great stuff on here. There's just a lot of stuff out there that's better. You know what I mean? But I mean, there's nothing bad about this at all. It's perfectly fine. It's just, there's a lot of better stuff. So, All right. So this one you either love or hate. Personally, I think it's a little bit. I think it was a bit of wasted potential. So this is a live album of Bob Dylan and the Grateful Dead called Dylan and the Dead, and it's good. I mean, you listen to it and it's good. I mean, the Dead sound fine, Dylan sounds fine, but it always came off to me as just a little lethargic. Like there was just a bit of wasted potential there. Like I feel like the energy just wasn't there on this recording. I mean, it's still a great historical document for that period of time when Dylan and the Dead were touring together, but I don't know. I think there were probably better recordings that they could have used for that record, if I'm being perfectly honest. Now, Bob Dylan doubleheader for 1989. This, I think, is probably one of the top 3 Bob Dylan albums of all time. Oh, mercy. My hot take for the day, this record is better than Blonde on Blonde. Fight me. I adore this record. There is not a bad moment on it. This was the strongest thing that Bob Dylan had put out in years. Between Political World, Everything's Broken, Man in the Long Black Coat is incredible. Most of the Time is one of the most sentimental songs I can remember him writing. What Good Am I is great. Disease of Conceit. Oh, God. What Was It You Wanted is amazing. Just, I don't understand how anybody can have a Bob Dylan library and not have this in it. It is just that good. All right. So this is a bit on the down-tempo side, although down-tempo wasn't really a thing in 1989. But, it's kind of got a little bit of a world music flair to it, but it's very, very chill and just a wonderful, wonderful album to listen to. I believe this is one of those where it came out in 1989, but the copyright date says 1988, because I think it came out in like very early 89. But this is the album Watermark by Enya. This has Orinoco Flow, which is her most well-known song. And this is great to just zone out to when you just need something for background, something that isn't going to be too intrusive into your brain. Awesome. All right, so this was, so here's a band from Boston that made it big in the early 90s. This is their first record from 1989. Wasn't quite as successful as their second record would have been, but here's the debut from Extreme. So this has Wind Me Up, which I remember hearing on the radio as a kid. Also Teacher's Pet, I remember hearing as a kid. So, there's some good stuff on here. I definitely think the second record was better, but this one's great. Here's a killer. So, when it comes to upper echelons of hair metal, this one's in the conversation. Here's the album Wake Me When It's Over by Faster Pussycat. I mean, this is just poppy and fun and all the staples of well-produced hair metal, right? Great hooks, great songwriting, great lyrics. I mean, this is just the whole package. It's so good. Here's an interesting little tidbit. So, before he was a producer, a very in-demand producer, producing every '90s grunge band that anybody cares to remember. Butch Vig was producing records for like underground hardcore bands around Madison, Wisconsin. And he actually was a member of a band for a little while called Firetown. And here's a promo copy. You can tell it's promo because of this and, of course, that. And of course, there's a gold promo stamp on the back. But this is... I guess I would just describe this as kind of middle-of-the-road pop rock, if I'm being perfectly honest. I mean, it's not super hard or anything. It definitely doesn't sound anything like Garbage, which, Butch Vig would go on to help be a founding member of. So this is, it's just kind of good, easygoing, middle-of-the-road pop rock, but it's actually really good. So a lot of people have never heard this record, but you should check it out. It's not bad at all. Speaking of kind of middle-of-the-road pop rock, but leaning a little more toward the hair and glam side, This is Last of the Runaways by Giant. Great record. Nothing. This is another one I think kind of like that Disneyland After Dark record. Like it's good. I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. It's just there was a lot of other stuff out there that was better at the time. But definitely worth listening to once, just to see if it does anything for you. All right, so I'm about halfway through here, so let's keep going. This is some good metal here. This is an album called Just a Face in the Crowd by Gothic Slam. This record I don't see very often at all. It didn't sell well. It wasn't, it didn't get a lot of radio play or anything. But there's actually surprisingly a lot of really good stuff on this. So if you're a fan of, hair and glam stuff or, just general traditional heavy metal, you'll find something to enjoy on this. There's a lot of good stuff here. Okay, what else we got? All right, here's some more rap / hip hop. One of my personal favorite rappers, a guy that never really was out there, perpetrating gangster rap or anything like that. He was one of those rappers that you could listen to in front of your mother, as MC Lyte used to say, and even better than that, your mother would want to listen to it. But here's Heavy D and the Boys. This is Big Time. Great record. I don't know if this was his first record, but I know this was one of the earlier ones. No, it definitely wouldn't have been his first record, but I think Heavy D came out around 86. So, this is one of the all-time great records in 1989, no doubt about it. Full of just wonderful, melancholy rockabilly. This is Heart-Shaped World by Chris Isaak. This has Wicked Game, which is probably his best remembered song. He had a few hits in the day, but Wicked Game is the one that everybody seems to remember these days and the only one that you still hear when you're out and about. But there is no bad song on this record. It is top shelf, front to back. All right. Got a little more country coming at you here. Another one of my all-time favorite country records. Well, if this thing would go back in the sleeve, there we go. All right, this is one that I actually had on tape, believe it or not, when I was a kid. My mom used to listen to country radio a lot when I was around that age. In '89, I would have been 10. So my mom was listening to a lot of country radio around that time. This is an album, Here in the Real World by Alan Jackson. I think this was his first record, and this has all of his real early hits that people remember. This has Here in the Real World and Chasing That Neon Rainbow and Ace of Hearts, Blue Blooded Woman, Short Sweet Ride, Dog River Blues, all kinds of good stuff on this. I love this record to pieces. You'll notice a trend with a lot of the country albums that I have from the 80s is that I very much liked two types of country, right? I like the pop stuff that Nashville was putting out that was all over the radio. And then I also liked the traditionalists, right? I love Randy Travis. I love Clint Black. I love George Strait. I love, those type of guys, right? Early Garth Brooks, Alan Jackson, right? Those type of guys. This is another one of the greatest albums of 1989, an album that has probably sold tens of millions of copies worldwide. This is Rhythm Nation by Janet Jackson. One of the best pop records ever, hands down. At this point, I mean, she was putting out music, I think, that was equal to what her brother, Mr. Michael Jackson, was doing. This has Rhythm Nation. This has Love Will Never Do Without You. I've always loved Living in a World They Didn't Make. Escapade is on this. Black Cat is awesome. So much good stuff on this. All right. Moving on, we'll get to my personal favorite Billy Joel record, front to back. This is Stormfront. I managed to find a factory-sealed original copy of this a couple of years ago. The big hits on this were We Didn't Start the Fire and I Go to Extremes. Another song on this that a lot of Billy Joel fans love is the Downeaster Alexa. That's one of his all-time great songs as far as I'm concerned. There's also just a ton of other great stuff on this. That's Not Her Style and Stormfront. I've always liked Leningrad, and So It Goes. Lots of good stuff. Okay, what else we got here? So this is one of those Elton John albums that I think most people are pretty mediocre on. I've always enjoyed it there, but a lot of people are just kind of very on the fence, kind of so-so about it. This is Sleeping with the Past. I don't think this album was super commercially successful. I think it had one or two songs that got a little bit of run on the radio, but not too much. But I've always liked this record. Whenever I'm in the mood for '80s Elton John, I usually either put on Too Low for Zero or this. All right. Oh, here we go. One of the great country duos of all time. This was their last studio album together. This is the Judds, River of Time. The big hit on this was Young Love. And I remember that song being all over the radio when I was a kid, whenever my mom would be listening to country radio. And this copy is absolutely beautiful and just has some absolutely wonderful songs. I could listen to the Judds. I mean, I would listen to the Judds sing Google search results. I mean, their voices just blended so wonderfully together. All right, so this is an album from Cyndi Lauper called A Night to Remember. This record was a little bit different for her, and this was another one that fans were kind of on the fence about. I think more people like it today than liked it in 1989, but there's a lot of good stuff on here. If you know her first two records with all the big hits, you should check this out and just see what you think. You might be surprised. Here's some good dancey electronic music. Lisa and Cult Jam, Straight to the Sky. I love Lisa. I mean, I think like a lot of people, I got introduced to her through Let the Beat Hit 'Em. But there's all kinds of great stuff here. If you like that, 80s dance, street beat type style of music, this will be right up your alley. Oh, here's one that has all kinds of great pop on it. This is Repeat Offender by Richard Marx. This has, let's see, what was the big hit on here? I think it was Nothing You Can Do About It. And I think Too Late to Say Goodbye was a hit as well. I could be wrong. Heart on the Line's great. If You Don't Want My Love. A lot of great songs on here. This is just good, delicious pop. Plain and simple. A little bit of rock flair to it, but it's pop at heart. All right. Biggest group of fakers in music history, possibly. Here's Girl, You Know It's True by Milli Vanilli. Great pop record, excellent production. I mean, it's very much a product of its time. These guys were not singing. It was 100% studio musicians, and for those of you that don't know the story behind Milli Vanilli, they had a whole bunch of hits, mostly off of this record. And then one night, they were in a club, they were performing, they were lip-syncing, unbeknownst to everybody. Nobody knew they were doing it. And the tape got stuck, and everybody realized the whole facade, and that was the end of it. You can find it on YouTube if you want to go look for it. But Milli Vanilli was one of the biggest downfalls I can remember for a music artist. It was pretty shameful. One of the best hair metal records of all time is Motley Crue's Dr. Feelgood. Arguably their best record. This has Dr. Feelgood on it. It's got Rattlesnake Shake. It's got Kickstart My Heart. Sticky Sweet. She Goes Down. Time for Change. Great album. And for anyone who cares, after this is when Vince Neil left the band temporarily, and they hired John Corabi to sing vocals on one album. It was the album after this one. It came out years later. It came out in '94, I think. And I absolutely love that self-titled record with John Corabi. Killer. All right, so this is an Australian pressing that I acquired recently because U.S. pressings just never, I don't think I've ever actually seen one in the flesh, to be perfectly honest. But this is the self-titled debut from Alannah Myles. The most well-known song on this, of course, is Black Velvet. But this is just another, this one is kind of a country rock with a pop kind of flow to it. It's great. It's really, really great. It's got a good down-home feel to it. And God, Alannah Myles' voice is just outstanding. Girl could sing. All right. A little more country here. This is A Horse Called Music by Willie Nelson. This was the album that contains Willie Nelson, to this day, his last solo top 40 country hit. He had a song with Toby Keith in the early 2000s that went to #1, but in terms of solo, this was the song Nothing I Can Do About It Now was his last, and to this day, his last solo top 40 country hit. And there's some good stuff on here. Certainly not in the upper echelons of his records, but there's enough good stuff on here to make it worth having. Okay, another awesome 80s band that a lot of people love, understandably so. This is the album Technique by New Order. New Order, of course, rose from the ashes of Joy Division. Very poppy, a lot of great stuff. Let's see, so on this record, this has Fine Time All the Way, Love Less, Round and Round, Guilty Partner, Run, Vanishing Point, Mr. Disco, Dream Attack. There's a lot of good stuff on here. I don't think there was much that made the radio off of this, but that doesn't mean it's not a great record, because it certainly is. All right. Here's a heavy hitter, and a record that would do a lot to change music in the 90s. This is an original pressing of the very first Nine Inch Nails record, Pretty Hate Machine. This was released on TVT Records, and Head Like a Hole is the big song that still gets some run these days. Honestly, this sounds like an angry, pissed off version of Depeche Mode. And this early Trent Reznor stuff is just badass. And then, of course, after this, he would take a few years off and then do The Downward Spiral, which is, in my opinion, one of the greatest albums of all time. All right, so this is the one and only non-original in this entire lot, and this is actually a second pressing on black vinyl, and this is Bleach by Nirvana. So this second pressing actually did come out in '89, but the very first copies were on white vinyl, and some copies of this had posters, some didn't. Mine does not, unfortunately. If I ever find a copy with a poster, I will totally buy it, but not so far. All right, so these guys in Cutting Crew may have been the two greatest pop rock bands of the 80s. And this was their third record, and probably my favorite. I wouldn't say it's their best, but it might be my favorite. And this is Voices of Babylon by The Outfield. The Outfield is mainly remembered for the song Your Love, which was on their very first record, their debut, called Play Deep. And then they put out an album after that called Bangin', which was really good. And then this one, I think this is their crowning achievement. It's amazing. So another band these days that I feel like has kind of fallen into the annals of history. People that love this band are very passionate about loving this band, but I don't think they're in the public consciousness when you look back on the 80s as much as they should be. This is an album, Book of Days, by the Psychedelic Furs. I actually bought this one factory sealed not long ago. And the Psychedelic Furs put out, I want to say, 8 records over the course of their career. And every one of them are at least an 8 out of 10. These guys have never, ever put out anything even approaching a bad record. So yeah, anytime you find a Psychedelic Furs record that you don't already have, pick it up. You'll love it. All right, so this began a later career resurgence for a woman who loved to play blues guitar and was very, very good at it. This is an album, Nick of Time, by Bonnie Raitt. Bonnie Raitt was pretty well known in the 70s, and then, as the 70s came to a close and the 80s kind of came around, she kind of fell off the radar. Her records weren't selling very well. People kind of lost interest in her. And man, she came roaring back with this record in '89. Nick of Time was the biggest hit on this, and then in a couple of years later, in the early '90s, she'd put out what the heck was the name of that record? I don't know why the name's escaping me, but it was the album that had Something to Talk About and that on it, and so this kind of got her resurgence started, and I would consider this essential to any pop or rock library. Here's a great rockin' record, and funny story with this one. So this is Mother's Milk by the Red Hot Chili Peppers. This is an original. And you know what I found weird about this, and this just goes to show you how little thought was being given to vinyl in 1989. The CD and cassette version of this record had a booklet or a fold-out J card with lyrics and credits, all kinds of things. Not the vinyl. Vinyl came with that generic back cover with the track listing and a plain inner sleeve. That's it. There was no insert, no anything with this. And when I picked this up, I actually did some research in the record store to see if it ever did, and it didn't. It was just, here, we're going to put it on vinyl. If anybody wants it, buy it. But we're not going to put a whole lot of effort into it. Kind of sad. Speaking, in some ways, 1989 was a bit of a year for comebacks for older artists. And here's another one, right? Lou Reed's album, New York. This record is phenomenal. I mean, this is easily one of Lou Reed's top 5 records of all time. And, if you know, you know, right? I mean, some people love Lou Reed, some people hate him. I've never minded his solo stuff. I have a few of his albums, but this one is an absolute keeper. There's so much great shit on here. All right. Another comeback album, and one of my favorites from the band, Rolling Stones, Steel Wheels. This has, so the big hits on this were Mixed Emotions, and also, I believe, Terrifying and Hearts for Sale. I remember hearing those as a kid. Steel Wheels, it's funny. A lot of people criticize Steel Wheels, and they say, oh, well, it was... The Stones just kind of mailed it in. Like, yeah, it was a comeback record because, Mick and Keith were having some very public acrimony at that time. And so, people are like, they got back together and patched it all up, but they just mailed it in. That record was Stones by the book, or, it was Stones by numbers. Like, they just went for the formula. And you know what? That's a fair criticism. It is. However, I don't think in 1989 anybody was interested in something new or attempting to be innovative from the Rolling Stones. I think people wanted a Stones record, and that's what they did. They went in the studio, and they made a fucking Stones record, and they made a really good one at that. Unfortunately, I don't have the studio album that this band put out this year, or this year, 1989, but I do have the live album that they did that year. This is A Show of Hands by Rush. This is a BMG Music Club pressing. Awesome. Great performances. It's also got some of my favorite stuff from Hold Your Fire, which is my favorite Rush record. It came out in '87. Lots of great stuff here. If you only own one live Rush record, you could do a whole lot worse than this one. Oh yeah. Here is a country album that is all but forgotten these days, but these guys had a huge country hit that year with The Church on the Cumberland Road, and Sunday in the South also was a big hit. But this is a an album called The Road Not Taken by Shenandoah. This is just good, twangy country, man. Lots of good stuff on this. Love this album to pieces. I got really lucky. A local vinyl friend here in the community just had posted this on her story, and I asked her if she was interested in letting it go, and luckily she was willing to let it go. So met up with her and exchanged record for cash, and she was happy, and I was very happy. So there you go. All right. Another one of the greatest hair metal albums of all time. This is the self-titled debut from Skid Row. This is the one that's got 18 in Life and God, Piece of Me, Youth Gone Wild. This is BMG Music Club pressing. Sounds amazing. This is another one that I just never, ever see on vinyl. This one could probably use an upgrade. This one's solidly VG all the way around. It's got a little bit of surface noise on it. Still perfectly enjoyable, but this is the album 11 by the Smithereens. This has one of my favorite songs of theirs called Girl Like You. Other great songs on this, Yesterday Girl, Cut Flowers, William Wilson I like, Blue Period, Room Without a View. Good shit. Funny little anecdote. I actually saw the Smithereens. They were the pregame entertainment at a Mets game that I went to. It was the final year at Shea Stadium, and the Smithereens were actively promoting their album Meet the Smithereens, which was basically an album of them covering the Meet the Beatles album. So they did every song, and that's what it was. It was a cover album. And so they ended up playing some of the Beatles covers off of that and played, some of their hits. I want to say they played for probably a good 30, 45 minutes. And yeah, it was great. So very cool to see them as pregame entertainment. Also saw them in Connecticut earlier than that. I want to say late 90s, early 2000s. I forget the exact date. I'd have to go on Setlist and look. So here's an album from a 60s band that a lot of people love called Spirit. And Spirit came roaring back in 1989 on IRS Records, a huge indie label. And this is called Rapture in the Chambers. I was shocked how good this is. It's hard to describe. Just listen to it. If you take one record from this entire video that you're like, I'm going to go check out that record he was talking about, do this one. See what you think. I was shocked how much I liked it. All right, so Jefferson Airplane becomes Jefferson Starship, and then in the 80s, there's more legal battles when people leave the band, and so another group forms out of the ashes just called Starship. Starship has hits like We Built This City on Rock and Roll and Sarah and others. And then in 89, they put out their third and final record that didn't really have any big hits on it. Still pretty good. If you like the first two, you'll probably like this one. So this is an album called Love Among the Cannibals. Here's some more solid country from the king of country, Mr. George Strait. This is Beyond the Blue Neon. This was released on MCA. Wow. I didn't notice this until now. Even a guy as huge as George Strait, they still put booking information on the back of the album cover for him. And he was huge in the 80s. Normally they do bookings for, put that stuff on the records for smaller artists that need some exposure and stuff like that. So that's pretty cool. Oh, yes. A 80s electronic pop classic. Mostly known for songs from The Big Chair from 1985. This is The Seeds of Love, 1989, of course. So Sowing the Seeds of Love is probably the biggest, most remembered hit off of this record. But every track is great, but this has one of my all-time favorite Tears for Fears songs called Woman in Chains. And you can't go wrong with this one. This is another one that's really, really tough to find, especially in nice shape. Oh yeah, we're nearing the end here, so another fantastic hair metal record. The Great Radio Conspiracy by Tesla, killer. This has Hang Tough and Lazy Days, Crazy Nights, Did It for the Money, God, Making Magic, Flight to Nowhere. Lots of just great rock and roll, man. That's what hair metal was all about. Raunchy lyrics and great rock and roll. Okay, another one of the all-time great hip-hop records that also came out in '89. This goes right along with De La Soul's record. This is the Cactus album by Third Base, Essential. Third Base was actually one of the first rap groups to make it big that was actually mixed race. Had black and white folks in the band. That was a really important thing in 1989, and the music is fantastic. So, a little bit of hometown stuff. This is an album called Biscuit Days by the Trikes. This is Blake Jones. He's very well known in the Fresno, California music scene, still even today. More blues from the master himself. This is the album In Step by Stevie Ray Vaughan. Amazing record. If you've never heard this one and you like anything else of Stevie Ray's, check this out. This will become your favorite SRV record. Some more pretty good country here. This is the Wagoneers. This is an album called Good Fortune. Here is a lesser-known hair metal album. So White Lion had their album Pride in 1987, which was their big album with all the huge hits. And then in '89, they put this one out, and there's a lot of good stuff on here. Probably not as good as the first album, but hey, it's got Vito Bratta on guitar. I mean, that's an automatic buy right there. And that guy doesn't get near enough run and credit for what a great guitarist he was. But this has some good stuff on it. Going Home Tonight, Dirty Woman, Let's Get Crazy. Good stuff. All right, I got two more for you. This is some damn hard rock and heavy metal right here. This is White Pigs. This record was, Walk Through Fire Records. So this is they were based out of Chicago. This is, very obscure record, but I think you can find it on YouTube or on a streaming service of your choice. So if you like 80s metal, you should check this out. You'd probably like it. All right, two more. Another great country artist. I would have loved to have seen where this guy's career would have gone had he been able to lay off the sauce. This is I Wonder, Do You Think of Me by Keith Whitley. Keith Whitley died in his early 30s from alcohol abuse. The guy was a raging alcoholic, sadly, but God, he had such a great voice. And he had a bunch of country hits during his short career. And if he had lived and had managed to get cleaned up, he would probably be seen as one of the all-time greats today. That guy had so much potential, it just boggles the mind. And yet again, another comeback album from an older artist. Keep on rocking in the free world. Here's Freedom by Neil Young. Neil Young's one of those guys I can take or leave, but I've got the essentials from him, and I've always felt like this was one of them. So that's what I've got for you guys. As you can see, I mean, there was a lot of great music that came out in '89, and of course, vinyl being on its way out, at least temporarily. It was a bit of a bittersweet time for vinyl lovers, but obviously things have kind of come full circle. So I hope you guys enjoyed seeing some of these records. I enjoyed making this video. Have a great evening or a great day wherever you are, and I will see you guys soon.